Harshal Desai from Elets Technomedia Private Limited. I welcome you all today to our edition of Elets Innovation Talk. This time we have with us Mr. Amit Naithani, Director, Government and Public Sector at Microfocus. Welcome, Mr. Amit Naithani, to Elets Innovation Talk.
Hey, hi, Harshal. Pleasure being here.
Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate you taking time out for this exclusive conversation. And in this particular interview today, we will try to understand more about Microfocus and its strategies and the products and solutions that you have to offer to the Indian industry. So once again, on behalf of Ego Magazine and Elets, I thank you for taking time out for this particular conversation. My first question to you, Mr. Amit Naithani, is that our audience would like to understand, about the organization. So I request you briefly, you can tell us the Microfocus, its journey in India since its inception, and the products and solutions that you are currently offering to customers in the country.
Yeah, okay, sure. Thanks again, Harshal, for inviting me over today. I'll try and give you a brief overview of what Microfocus is all about since it's our first interaction. So Microfocus is a 40-year-old organization, a global organization headquartered in the UK, and we have operations in more than 50 countries across the world. And it's an organization which has very solid fundamentals around which and mature technologies around which the solutions are built in. We are in India for a long time now. Microfocus has suddenly gotten into a lot of prominence ever since we acquired the HPE software assets, which happened in 2016 and 17. And 17 was the merger of the two large organizations. And ever since then, we have been going rock solid in terms of building a large portfolio of solutions and taking it to our customers. Today, we are globally in the top 10 as far as being a pure play software company is concerned, and with global revenue, which is upwards of $3 billion. We primarily operate in 4 solution areas. The first being IT operations and management, which is a lot to do with the infrastructure management and the data center management. Then the second solution area being the security, which is extremely big practice for us, where we do a lot of stuff around application security, data security, security incident and events management, putting up security operations centers for various customers across enterprises and government. Then the third tower being analytics and information and management and governance, which is a lot of data analytics and backup solutions. And the fourth being the heritage Microfocus solution area, which is very niche and primarily, focused around the industry, which is very heavy on mainframes. So these are the 4 solution areas that we work around, and we have a very big presence in India. Ever since the HPE days and now after the consolidated solutions have come into picture, a very good presence across all sectors, I would say, whether it is telecom or manufacturing or IT and ITES or banking, and definitely public sector and government. We're extremely strong with a lot of partnerships around which, through which we go to the market with the different partners and system integrators, and also contribute towards the governments, the state governments, the public sector undertakings, or the central government, provide better and improve certain services day in and day out to their customers.
Right.
So a very brief, in an nutshell about my.
Yes. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. Now we are all going through tough times. We are all in the middle of a pandemic. We have seen 2 waves already, and third wave is, it's predicted. It's also, there. We'll have to face the third wave as well. So now the second wave of the COVID pandemic is, painting further grave pictures of the situation, and where are the major digital solutions, developed in the earlier wave lacking? That's what we want to understand. And what possible improvements do we see need to tackle in this crisis?
So keeping this specific to the impact on the government and public sector, because that's what I am chartered with, because different enterprises have reacted differently to the pandemic, and the resource crunch, so to say, or the impact of pandemic has been different on different organizations. But keeping it focused around government and public sector, yes, every organization, like every enterprise. So first of all, nobody was prepared. No organization in the world was prepared for this pandemic. It's just that how much impact has happened on organization A versus organization B versus organization C. Obviously, the enterprises, the adoption of technology and their preparedness possibly is a little better because of the way they operate. The decision making is faster, and the resources are also built in accordingly. Government, definitely, specifically in India, we witnessed that there was unpreparedness, so to say, in the sense that, for example, work from home was never an option for the government organizations, right? Enterprise, we always had an option, like Microfocus or any other enterprise. There would always be an option of working from home. May not be as a mandate, but definitely in terms of preparedness of the organization to let the employees work from home was always there.
Yes.
Again, may not be to 100% as we are experiencing today, but definitely it was there to some extent, and hence there was some level of preparedness there. But government, obviously, because work from home was never an option, right? Hence we witnessed that during that first 3 weeks of complete lockdown, there was complete standstill. And once they realized that it's here to stay, and the government, different organizations started to prepare themselves for serving the citizens from home. It was something absolutely unheard of, uncharted territory, something that we were not prepared, something we had not prepared, possibly as not as Indian government, but in general as governments, because we had never imagined this would happen, because something similar only happened about 103 years back, something that, Spanish flu is what we all know about. But at that time, technology possible was not there at all, or even if it was there, it was not in this size and shape that we witness today. But this pandemic has been very, very tough on everybody. And so at that time, obviously there was a lot of initial flux, but we did our bit in terms of making sure that we offered to a certain duration all our softwares free of cost to all the organizations, including government and public sector, so that they could prepare themselves in the interim. And so some of them did leverage that offer, and we could help them respond to the situation a little better than otherwise. But I must acknowledge, and I must sincerely appreciate, as a citizen, not as somebody who looks out of government business, but as a citizen, the way different state governments, and specifically the central government, turned around.
Right.
When you know that these are monolithic large organizations, it takes time for them to move. But the way the government, different departments and organizations have responded to the pandemic, and it was kind of by September, October, we could see the normalcy was almost visible. I, for one, during those times also, I undertook some travel in the month of, let's say, September, when we were still peaking at about 95,000, and I was really amazed to see. And some of the government places where the way they were working, the way they were trying to put things together, they were trying to respond to citizen services. Some of the examples, I may not be able to name them, but some state government that I've been personally involved with, interacting with the IT secretary and the bureaucrats there, the way they responded to, because the load on the infrastructure and the load on the resources of the government has gone up multifold, because people are not moving around. They're not going to different government organizations for availing a citizen service. They're all going through the digital medium, which is putting humongous amount of load on the infrastructure that is serving them. Right. A whole lot of data center, which is the application, there's a choke on them. But the way quite a few, I would say most of the government machinery has responded over the last, I would say 9 to 12 months is exemplary. I have been personally involved in some of the states, and I was blown away with the way they have, definitely, we can say as a citizen, they were caught unaware, but the way they responded and come back, making sure that citizen services were impacted to the least possible, is exemplary.
Yes.
Really.
You rightly said when everything was closed and everything was, all the departments were, I mean, the private sector was completely closed, businesses were closed, industries were closed. It was only government and government officials who were working day and night to ensure that we can keep continuing, they keep serving the citizens of their states and of their cities. So your point is quite valid, and hats off to governments across the country who even in this in the times of pandemic, kept moving. So now one such department which played a very critical role during the pandemic was smart cities across the countries. They helped a lot in controlling the pandemic, especially the control and command centers. The way they used across the country is phenomenal. Now, my next question to you is, how are smart cities adopting digitization to enhance resilience and strengthen their preparedness for any such future pandemic or disasters?
Uh, I think the Smart City program has been a wonderful initiative in the sense that we are trying to do what we haven't done in the last 60, 70 years, right? And this program is about 7 years old now,
Mhm.
from conceptualization to whatever level of execution we are in today. But I can tell you the amount that we've moved, the distance that we moved in the last 7 years, the speed is phenomenal. We are talking about modernizing cities here, right? Which is we are talking about retrofitting technology within a city which is already running for the last hundreds of years, right? If not
Yes,
more.
yes,
And it is much easier to create a greenfield smart city, for example. You have a land parcel and you develop that land parcel the way you want to put a technology the way you want to put that across. So there have been some examples here and there in the world of greenfield smart cities, a couple of them in India as well. But retrofitting technology and making or already running running city into a smart city, so to say, because again the definition of smarts are different. The definition of smart for India is different than Singapore or Europe for that matter.
yes.
Singapore even today talks about making Singapore as a smarter nation, but their parameters are different. So there is no one size fits all. There is no one definition of smart city. Idea is to adopt technology and improve the delivery of citizen services, taking to the next level. So for
Mm.
example, surveillance today is a part and parcel of every smart city today, right? But in the West, maybe they have done it 20, 30 years back. But that's fine because they're all developed nations, right? We are an emerging country. But the rate at which we are doing it is great. And some of, for example, I come from Dehradun, right? And we just saw the state of Uttarakhand, they have fast tracked that project of Dehradun smart city. And when I go there as a citizen, nothing to do, while it gives me great pleasure to see that a lot of solutions being adopted in that particular city are from Microfocus. But I'll refrain from putting a Microfocus hat here. But as a citizen, as a native of that place, when I go there, and I see a lot of development and a lot of change. But I go there pretty often. I go there every 3-4 months visiting my parents, and the amount of change that I've seen in that city, with various small things, whether it is response to a certain situation or various citizen services, it does give me a lot of inner soothe, so to say. You feel good. And similarly, in the place that I'm currently in NCR, there are a lot of initiatives which have been taken. So
Mm.
definitely the resilience is being built, no doubts about it. Are we as a nation or as a city, when a city which calls it smart, for example, now if Dehradun has gone live, it is called a smart city today. If Agra has gone live, it is called a smart city today. If Nashik is going live in a few months from now, it is will be called smart city. But various cities, but then definitely the resilience is being built.
Right,
Now to
right.
respond to you, whether, and I am obviously not the authority to make a comment on whether to comment on a city being ready or not ready, but definitely we are much more prepared than we were 3-4 years back. Imagine if a smart city solution had not been put in some of the cities which are currently being talked about, where they have leveraged the ICCC or the Integrated Command and Control Center for COVID relief or for COVID monitoring. Now, if that solution was not put in place, and that was not put in place, looking at, upcoming COVID or a pandemic, they were put in place for making the city smarter. But because the ICCC center was there, the response to pandemic or the monitoring to pandemic was far better in those cities.
Yes.
So in a way, the resilience was already being built, and it will not be, fair to say that the city was not prepared, because city was in a way prepared because there was an ICCC in that city which could respond. For example, the ICCC became the COVID relief center or the COVID response center for a few cities, which means that there was a level of readiness. Now, if of the 40-45 cities which are in the currently different phases of getting smart, when that number reaches 70, 80, 100, and we are, again, there is the ICCC being installed, and there is a whole lot of more preparedness that we are currently doing for so-called wave 3 or for any future pandemic, will definitely be more resilient and more prepared to answer that. So to answer in a nutshell, yes, there are very specific examples of cities. We have read that in press. We have seen that in news channels where how integrated command and control center of a city has converted for the time for some period of time being a COVID response center, and how that preparedness of in the process of converting that a normal city to a smart city did help that city in being prepared or better prepared to some other cities responding to the pandemic. And again, as we say that out of the 40-45 which are currently in various phases of various stages of implementation of being called a smart city of that project, Microfocus has a footprint in more than 25 of them. So okay. in a way, we've had our contribution. It's just that because we are much behind the government. For example, there is a government entity, right? Yes. Then yes. There is a system integrator like an L&T or a Tata Projects or anybody for that matter, or a Honeywell or an HPE. When they put a solution together, they are then taking technology from various OEMs, and we are one of those OEMs. So we've definitely had our footprint in some of those cities, and I'm sure, I'm glad that some of our solutions were at play when the response to COVID was being provided.
That's what I wanted to understand. I mean, my next question was the same actually, that how Microfocus, contributing to augment smart city infra to make cities more livable, efficient, sustainable, and resilient.
Yes, I only little bit pre-answered that question, but yes, we've had our bit, we've had our play. It is just that we don't work with the government directly, because when the government comes up with a project, with the yes. smart city comes up with a project, there are a whole lot of citizen services and a whole lot of themes that are weaved together to create a smart city. So there may be intelligent traffic management solution in some smart city. There will obviously be a command and control center. There will be a solid waste management solution. There will be a city portal somewhere. But when a systems integrator puts this all together, we play our part in quite a bit, in the sense that today, every sensor that is being used for monitoring the city, every infrastructure that is a part of the data center, most of those cities, all that infrastructure is being managed through a Microfocus monitoring solution. Citizens' data being secure is possibly a result of a data security solution from Microfocus.
Right.
Citizen service data being backed up in a storage device is being done through a Microfocus backup solution. So we are playing our part, and I think we've really made a lot of inroads in terms of making sure that we are able to translate the benefits of that technology getting translated into a bit of improvement in the average day-to-day life of a citizen. So somewhere, for example, again, without quoting any city, but surveillance, for example, if there is an unfortunate incident and a camera needs to pick up that incident, whether that camera is being monitored through a solution which comes from us. If the camera is down, for example, on a particular a traffic signal, some incident happens, and at that point in time, if the camera is not working, that incident will not get captured. Now, whether the camera is working or not, whether it is functioning properly or not, is something that is managed from the data center. the tool that is able to see whether the camera is on, off, or functioning properly or not, whether the signal is coming or not, is possibly a microfocus. Okay. So we play our part. It's not that direct, but we definitely play our part in making sure that there is it's like a chain. You know, when you put a citizen service together, there are multiple softwares and hardware, and at the end of the day, IT is all about either a software or a hardware or a service or a combination of all three. There is nothing else in IT, by the way, as far as I understand. When all this comes together, does a citizen service or an enterprise service comes into play? And hence, when a chain is created for various solutions, we do play our part there.
Right. Okay. One quick answer probably I'll seek from you on this question: that do you think pandemic has affected the growth of smart city mission in the country?
Okay, I think it's a pause before you start running again, but you've done faster now. So yes, it will be again as a citizen. You know, it's for us to see very clearly that when there is a lockdown, when people are impacted, how can a government organization work? When there was a 4-week or a 3-week lockdown in the month of March and April, the entire country was down. So how will a file get signed? How will the project get sanctioned, right? Even after that, when various smart city projects are getting implemented, if people are not at site and if they are not able to function properly, if there's a connectivity issue, how will they function? So has the speed been impacted? Obviously, it is for any smart city CEO or the officials to comment on it. But again, as a citizen and as somebody who is part of the industry, definitely projects possibly have gotten slowed down a little. However, and obviously wave 2 nowadays, it will be very insensitive to expect that things would have moved in the month of April or mid of May in 2021. I mean, the whole country was grappling, right? Including you, me, everybody. And somebody or the other was impacted with whether it was family or friends. There was hardly anybody who was not directly or indirectly impacted in most cities. So it would be very insensitive to expect that because of that thing, delay would not be there.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to say is that there definitely would have been delays of projects, you know, getting implemented or files getting signed or, you know, approvals getting, you know, sought or the project which is in the phase of implementation, there would not have been a delay. But however, the government or the agencies are far more alive to the situation now, and I can clearly see there's a lot of fast tracking which is happening now. We have seen in the last 4 to 6 weeks there is a renewed vigor in the government ecosystem or the public sector ecosystem to make sure that they more than make up for the lost time. So I would say it was a little pause or maybe a little slowdown for a faster run ahead.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
Great. Thank you for that answer. Now let's talk about IT operation management, that is ITOM, and extended support program, ESP. How these are playing instrumental role in enabling effective services delivery to citizens in the pandemic.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, so IT operations management is an internal microfocus solution nomenclature. But what it does for a person on the street, as I gave you the example of the camera not functioning. For example, the camera feed is getting captured by a sensor, right? Or you know, there is a connectivity that is to the data center now, and the data center is being managed or monitored through a microfocus tool. So once you detect that camera is not working, the IT operations management solution of microfocus comes into play.
Right.
That terminology is internal to us, but what it does is it makes sure that the infrastructure, whether it is a server or storage or the routers or switches or any IT infrastructure which is being used for delivering a citizen service, whether it is working properly or not, whether the SLAs are being monitored properly or not, is done through microfocus. Right. And hence that role comes into that solution comes into play. Similarly, the extended support program that we talked about, it was, you know, as I said, when the pandemic hit, we came out with this program where we made available all our softwares free of cost for a certain period of time, so that, you know, the customers are not off guard. And while the adoption of that was a pretty low in government because again the response time in government was lower because of they not being able to work from home. But some of the organizations did make use of that, and it definitely helped a lot. A few other examples like the tax department, one of the largest contributors to the coffers of the government in terms of revenue is the indirect taxes. And they use our solutions for making sure that the application through which the returns are filed on the GSTN portal, for example, is tested on a Microfocus solution. So there is again, multiple examples visible, available that the governments have adopted from Microfocus in partnership with various other system integrators, where we are definitely making a difference at the end of the day to the person on the street, where the charter of the government is only and only citizen service. They may put together a whole lot of solutions, spend thousands of crores, but at the heart of every initiative of the government is the person on the street, citizens like you and me, common man. And we play our part in multiple ways.
Thank you so much, sir, for all these inputs. And one last, not the least question, a quick answer from you. As you said, government across the country are very actively now adopting latest and innovative technologies, including cloud computing and all kind of advanced software they're using. So probably pandemic has kind of forced or compelled government departments to adopt more and more latest and advanced solutions and technologies. So how do you see this trend going in near future after the pandemic? What will be the momentum in future?
Definitely. So, for example, any adoption of technology, it starts with the enterprises. The large enterprises would adopt. For example, public cloud. It's a very big case study for everybody, and it's not about India. It's across the world. Public cloud is here. It is it's a big booming market, and there's a very big players. Some of the biggest names in the IT industry are running that. Is spearheading that initiative. One thing in the government is that the adoption of technology in government and public sector is slower compared to an enterprise, whether it is a manufacturing organization or a telecom organization or IT and ITES organization. But the scale is unprecedented. When the government does it, then there is absolutely no comparison.
Right.
And hence it is so true that they look at how the technology is shaping up. Once it gets proven, and then obviously there is that evaluation that happens. And once the government starts adopting it, then the scale is unprecedented. The same is going to happen for the cloud as well. As we speak, the adoption of initially there was a very low adoption of public cloud in the government segment or in public sector. There were talks and there were initiatives to build private cloud, which is that you're putting up an infrastructure which is catering to a particular department or a particular ministry or a particular state. But that's changing now, and the agents of change again are some of the early adopters of technology, because there are different ministries who have different charters. Some of the ministries are much ahead of other ministries in terms of adoption of technology, but that adoption is already happening now. You see a lot of projects today where government, as long as the data sovereignty is protected, and the solution provider is making sure that the sovereignty of the data of the land is being taken care of. The adoption of public cloud is definitely on the rise, and this is purely from a government and public sector perspective. And we again, we play a huge role there as well with our cloud native solutions, with the way we package our solution as a service. And some of the projects which are currently, I may not be able to name them because they're in the either stages of evaluation, or some of the contracts are getting signed with various system integrators. Some of the RFPs, what kept me busy, for example, last 2 days, was a cloud RFP that we were responding to in a state, which once, when it goes live, the adoption of cloud in that state would have grown multiple notches above. So clearly, the adoption of public cloud and cloud as a medium of giving citizen service is on the slope towards the upward trajectory, and it's also a matter of once state government does it, the replication becomes easier, because the first one is always difficult, and then there would be some states or some ministries to take the lead and move forward. But once that happens, so for example, the first PPP project, public-private partnership project in IT industry in the government segment may have taken 3, 4, 5 years from the date it would have been, the initiation of the project to going live. But once the first one happened, you see there's so many happening now. Various ministries, there's so many examples now. So yes, similarly, the adoption of cloud, the public cloud, I would say, the private cloud was always there, but public cloud, it is definitely it is on the up, and I'm pretty sure the way various state governments and ministries are talking, there will be a huge growth there as well. That's my personal view.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amit Naithani, Director, Government and Public Sector at Microfocus. Thank you so much for this interaction. We once again, on behalf of Ego Magazine and Elets Media, thank you for taking time out for this exclusive conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here and share our views on questions that you asked. Great. Thank